If you have a brain, then you have biases. In fact, it's a neurological necessity and something we can't function without. The challenge is to know what our biases are to make sure that they don't lead to negative, limiting, or discriminatory behaviours. Now, in this video, we explore Dr. David Rock's SEEDS model to help minimise bias in decision making. Ahoy, Peter from Brighter Training, and today I'm introducing you to the SEEDS model to mitigate bias in decision making. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments section and click like and subscribe if you find the content interesting or useful, as it helps us share these resources with more people who may also benefit. We're all biased in our thinking. The short version is that it's essential. We take in millions of bits of sensory information and we can only be consciously aware of a tiny amount. There used to be something called Miller's magic number 7, and that used to suggest that out of all those, I think 11 million bits that come in, we could only hold 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information in our conscious awareness. That number has now dropped down to as low as 4 plus or minus 1. So because of this, we automate upward of 95% of our behaviours and our decisions. Now, to do that, our brains make assumptions and predictions and generalizations based on past experience. We just couldn't function if we had to stop, reflect, and process every single variable in every aspect of our lives. It's estimated that adults make over 35,000 decisions in a day. So good luck consciously weighing the pros and cons and assessing the data and making an informed decision for each one. These biases can be beneficial, for example, survival or convenience, or harmful, so for example, causing discrimination or inequality or stopping us from trying new things. It's not humanly possible to be aware of our unconscious brain activity in the moments that we're making these choices or decisions. Hence, it's vital that leaders and organisations apply frameworks and processes to mitigate these invisible biases. This is especially important as we consider the neurological need for safety and trust in cultures to support high performance and genuine diversity and inclusion. We can mitigate the impact of bias by preparing for decisions where a bias might come into play. For example, in decisions about choosing who to promote to a management role, we know that similarity bias, so people who are similar to us, we see them as better, really comes into play. So we can mitigate that unconscious bias by looking at commonalities and how we're similar to each candidate. The trick though is that we must do this ahead of the decision, which means knowing what types of decisions might invoke unconscious biases. The SEEDS model identifies processes that can interrupt and redirect unconsciously biased thinking, and there are 3 steps to follow with this model: accept, label, and mitigate. So firstly, we need to accept that we are biased by virtue of our biology. People and systems are deeply biased and just don't know it. People do not want to believe that they are biased, and we're all quick to detect and criticize biased thinking and decision making in others, but believe that we ourselves are far less susceptible to these same things. Being right feels good, so we experience reward, whereas being wrong causes pain. Seeking reward and avoiding pain are 2 of the most important contributors to cognitive bias. We make judgments and decisions based on what feels right, even though what feels right may be based on irrelevant, faulty, or just plain wrong information. Individuals in particular have a tough time and may never accept that they are biased, but at the organisational level, a system of individuals may be able and need to operate under the assumption that judgments and decisions are influenced by cognitive bias, and that they can put a structure in place to actively mitigate the effects. So step 2 is to use the SEEDS model to label the types of bias that are likely to occur in the system. Now, there are over 150 different types of bias, which makes assessing each one difficult. Hence, the SEEDS model can be applied to sort bias into 5 categories based on neurobiological factors. And these 5 categories are similarity, expedience, experience, distance, and safety. First, we have similarity. People are highly motivated to feel good about themselves, and they see similar people in the best possible light. Sometimes these self-interested and self-sustaining motives can conflict with an objective perception of ourselves and others and the world. So similarity biases involve evaluating people who are similar to us or who share similar goals more positively. So perceiving people who are different from us to be maybe more negative. And they're common in decisions that we make about other people. Next is expedience. Expedience biases can be described as mental shortcuts that help us make quick and efficient decisions. The downside to this efficiency is that those decisions can be based on incorrect judgments. This is that whole concept between System 1 and System 2 thinking, where System 1 is fast, unconscious, pre-programmed responses, and System 2 is more rational and deliberate. An example that's often used is the question, a bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people will answer quickly and confidently that the bat costs $1 and the ball costs 10 cents. The fast, instinctive answers come to mind and it makes intuitive sense and feels right, which is System 1, but that's wrong. Now the next category is experience. Experience biases result from our brains being built on understanding the world as a direct and objective representation of what's really out there. In other words, we assume that our experience is true and how the world works. Because we hold a strong conviction that we see reality as it is, we therefore tend to believe that anyone who sees things differently must be wrong. The fourth category in the 𝐒𝐻𝐤𝐵 model is distance. Now, proximity is also a driver of decision making. Unconsciously, we assign greater value to things that we perceive to be closer to us simply because they're close. Now this can include distance and time. So for example, given a choice between $10 now and $20 in the future, most people will take the $10. Or a salesperson may focus on customers in their hometown because they're more familiar with the territory rather than higher value clients that are in a distant and unfamiliar area. And the final category is safety. Decisions are generally more driven by negatives than by positives. In other words, bad is stronger than good. The fact that negative information tends to be more motivating than positive information is an evolutionary adaptation, because you'll stay alive longer if you prioritize remembering that the snake will kill you than the bunny is cute. Put another way, losing $20 feels worse than finding $20 feels good. Loss aversion and the framing effect both refer to the fact that humans are highly sensitive to information about whether we expect to lose something or gain something, and that information changes our decisions. Once we accept that we have biases and identify the relevant biases for our situation, step 3 is to mitigate the bias by using strategies that go directly to the core of the process underpinning that bias. And this is something that we explore in live training in detail, as there's a lot of options based on process and neurological considerations. So why is it so hard to accept that our actions, behaviours and decisions are influenced by bias? Well, resistance to our own susceptibility to bias, paired with the unconscious nature of cognitive bias, creates the perfect storm in which bias is perpetuated and rarely recognised or adequately managed. So why is it so hard to do this? Firstly, it feels good to be right, and it feels bad to be wrong. Remember the old reward and punishment response. Being right activates the brain's reward centres. Being wrong activates parts of the brain associated with processing pain and negative emotion. So keep in mind that this is a model that we explore in detail in our live leadership and change programs. So if you're interested in supporting positive, objective decision making in your workplace, then our contact details can be found in the description below, or head over to our website at brightertraining.com.au. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.